Hey, what's up, everybody? Richard here with the final episode of our I Ching Oracle of the Cosmic Way series, Hexagram 64, the end of the I Ching, before completion, which is fire over water. The judgment, before completion, success. But if the little fox, after nearly completing the crossing, gets his tail in the water, there's nothing that would further. The sages indicated the theme of this hexagram to be our cooperation with the helper of transformation that brings undertakings to completion. Receiving this hexagram is saying that the student who has nearly completed a step in the process of freeing his true self, which is what all of this is about, freeing your true self, needs to deal with residual fears or doubts which are addressed in the lines. After having dealt with them, the helper of transformation can bring his efforts to completion. This helper is the vehicle for crossing the great water mentioned in line 2. A person may receive this hexagram when he has done his 100% in achieving his goal. Then he needs to recognize that he can go no further and turn the matter of its completion over to the helper of transformation. The situation is like that of the musician who has practiced assiduously, has done all he could to understand the feeling the composer wished to communicate, and is now about to begin the performance. By turning the whole matter over to the cosmos and asking for help, he finds himself guided and playing on a level that is quite beyond his ordinary abilities. He simultaneously performs and enjoys his performing, and it is endowed with the genius of the helper of transformation. While the feeling is magical, it is the natural way the cosmos performs when we recognize that we are not meant to do it all. The young fox represents the student who, upon beginning the path of liberating his true self, is inexperienced in the ways of the cosmos. And we are indeed talking about the cosmic way here, which does have these set ways. It's not an unknown, it's not something that we have to discover. It's right here. The fox, as an animal, represents the student's ability within his own nature to meet with all circumstances, including standing up to the ego in himself and to the fears and guilt the collective ego has instilled in his psyche. Important among his natural abilities is the ability to ask for help from the sage and the helpers. The young fox's tail stands for his residual fear. What if I don't succeed? Which is one of the last attempts the ego makes to prevent the crossing. Getting the tail in the water refers to listening to such fears, for then indeed he cannot free himself from the influence of the collective ego. The great water, and that's what this is all about. This is about freeing ourselves from the collective ego, freeing our true selves. That's what the entire I Ching is designed to achieve. The great water is a metaphor used throughout the I Ching for all the doubts, fears, and feelings of guilt the collective ego has trained into the individual to keep him within the parallel reality. Crossing the great water refers to a step in the process of freeing the person's true self by which he returns to the cosmic reality. Making this crossing is the dual task referred to above. The student does his half by deprogramming the mistaken ideas of the collective ego. The helper of transformation completes the other half. Crossing the great water can also refer to completing any kind of undertaking, whether it be the process of bringing relationships into harmony, writing, performing, meditating, or doing a difficult mechanical task. A successful completion is always a cooperative relationship between the person on the one hand and the sage and the helpers on the other. The beginning student needs to avoid trying to identify and name the helpers because too often his inexperience will categorize them in ego terms which come from fantasy. Wrong names block their true functioning. The correct names may come as mind flashes and can be checked with RTCM. The person receives this hexagram to inform him of the effort that is still needed on his part to make the crossing possible. The first part of his effort consists in becoming centered within himself. When he has cleaned his inner space as described in that exercise, he next asks the sage and the helpers to give him the insight of what he needs to do and to bring the help needed to make that possible. When he has finished these tasks, he then turns the matter over to the sage and the helpers for completion. After turning it over, he needs to keep any doubts, expectations, and wondering about it dispersed and separate from the ego's tendency to focus his inner eye on the matter. This letting go needs to be complete, especially in regard to the time required for the transformation to take place. And that's what all of this is about, transforming. This is the book of transformation. The I Ching is the book of transformation. Spells connected with this hexagram are created by beliefs that isolate a person from the helpers. Among them is a person's belief that the helpers do not exist. It is not necessary to believe in the helpers, but for transformation to become possible, it is necessary to deprogram the beliefs that disable them. These beliefs say, I can/must do it all myself. What is our intelligence for? There is no help. Such beliefs act as spells. Other spells blocking transformation have to do with the belief in changes. All that is needed to make success happen is a change in partners, jobs, scenes, engineering, policies, etc. The belief in changes ignores the fact that transformation, which is true change, can only be brought about by the helpers. Other spells that block transformation have to do with beliefs in initiation. One needs to become initiated, as by a human master, into the mysteries that lead to mastery. That's going to piss off a lot of the esoteric people. But it's true. A belief in initiation blocks transformation. Wow. Line 1, he gets his tail in the water, humiliating. He, in this line, represents a person who, having nearly crossed the rivers of his fears, doubts, and guilt, now hesitates to listen to the ego's last plea. How will you cope in the world out there without me? I have been your faithful friend. I'm a part of your personality. You can't get rid of me without harming yourself. These last pleas of the ego, which were part of the original installing features of the ego program in the psyche, are now replayed if the person has never deprogrammed them. Their only purpose is to pull him back into the parallel reality. Once he listens to them, other reinstalling features of the program are activated. If the person will now say the inner no to these phrases, it's all about phrases, and ask the helpers to deprogram them, the transformation will take place, although he will feel some humiliation for having listened to these fears. The line can also indicate that the healing of a health problem cannot be completed because a person has failed to ask the helper of transformation to complete the healing. Or he may have overlooked one or more phrases or images that have created the health problem. The line can also describe a regression that has occurred after an initial improvement in his condition. This may be due to his thinking certain thoughts, such as, it can't be that easy, or now I can do whatever I like, meaning return to old bad habits. Line 2, he breaks his wheels. Being firmly correct brings good fortune. He breaks his wheels is a suggestion that the person has been making progress in a wagon or carriage, which has been appropriate for his passage across land. However, now, since this part of his journey has been completed, with the next step requiring him to cross water, the appropriate vehicle is a boat. This means that whereas his effort consisted in doing his full share, now the completion done by the helper of transformation adds the other half. The message given is that the person can halt in his efforts because he has done enough. He now needs to ask the helper of transformation to complete his goal. He remains firm that his goal is correct and turns the matter over to the cosmos by becoming neutral about how the transformation will take place, in what form, and in what time. Being firmly correct warns against fantasizing about the outcome. If a person has been doing this, it may be necessary to deprogram the projections and spells he has created, or other spells that have prompted him to indulge in fantasy. Crossing the great water can also be a metaphor for healing an illness with the help of the sage. Thoughts that impede the progress include spells created by inner comments of the ego, such as, it's silly to be tossing coins. I'm above that. It's not proven by science. It only works when you believe in it. I don't believe in that kind of hocus pocus. The ego will employ every tactic, especially those appealing to vanity, to keep a person from healing himself with the help of the sage. So that means to free himself of certain aspects of the ego in himself. Another logic employed by the ego is its assertion that the true way of healing must necessarily be hard and complicated. At the same time, it would assert that if the person follows the cosmic way of healing, it should be an instantaneous and impressive miracle, or at least only a matter of 2 days and no effort. If it takes any longer, it is simply too hard. The intended conclusion is that if the cosmic way does not work right away and is not thorough and complete, the person should return to the conventional way that the collective ego recognizes. Well, actually, in my opinion, it is thorough and complete. Finally, the crossing can refer to the passing over that is commonly called death. To make this crossing smooth and timely, the vehicle needed is comprised of certain helpers, which a person can ask on another's behalf to help him make the crossing. A timely crossing means that the person's life in a body has been completed. Receiving this line can be an indication that the time has come to ask these helpers on behalf of another person. One can determine this by asking the sage to the RTCM. Line 3, before completion, attack brings misfortune. It furthers one to cross the great water. After having done his self-correction, the person is advised not to make a further assault on the goal by trying to make it happen. Instead, his next step is to center himself, let go of the matter completely, and turn it over to the cosmos. He neither thinks, fantasizes, nor worries about whether or how the transformation will happen, for this too would be an attack on the process. Thus, he does not generate any negative consciousness, demonic consciousness, that would interfere with the completion process. Revealed here is the cosmic principle that progress is made while a person is going on with his life, and while he is keeping up his efforts at self-correction. Progress halts when he puts his life on hold and waits with expectation. Line 4, being firmly correct brings good fortune. Remorse disappears. Shock. Thus, to discipline the devil's country. For 30 years, great realms are awarded. This line can refer to a person whose goal has been to reunite with another after the relationship has fallen into a misunderstanding. He has corrected himself, thus done his share of preparing for the transformation. The devil's country stands for the misunderstandings that remain. Through the intervention of the helper of transformation, a shock has temporarily jarred the other free from the ego, allowing his true self to lead his personality. This line informs the person observing the changes taking place in the other that they are real and will endure because they have been created through transformation. For 3 years, great realms are awarded refers to subsequent transformations to be expected, which will free up more and more of that person's true nature. This process is also accompanied by an increasing good influence he has on others and on the situation. All remorse for past mistakes is wiped away. This line shows the principle that people are not changed by altering themselves externally. It is only when transformation has taken place that the heart is cleansed and restored to its original state. Then the person is no longer in the grip of the devil's country. Line 5, perseverance has brought good fortune without remorse. The transformation is complete. The light of the sage is true. Success. The victory over the ego has been won because the person has been firmly correct in saying the necessary inner knows and has deprogrammed the spells, projections, and poison arrows active in the situation. He has thereby initiated the aid of the sage and freed the helpers needed to complete his undertaking. He needs only to keep free of claiming the victory as his. In regard to healing, this line informs the person that his healing is complete. Line 6, there is drinking of wine in genuine confidence, no blame. But if one wets his head, he loses it in truth. This line shows a person whose confidence in the cosmic way has been justified. Just at this point of victory, there is the danger that he may fall into overconfidence, which is the last attempt of the collective ego to undo the success achieved and to lay the foundation for the rebuilding of the individual ego. This would happen if the person flattered himself that the success was his own doing and thus eliminate the role of the helpers. The person is also warned by this line to avoid any assumption that he has conquered the ego within himself once and for all. Such an assumption might tempt him to relax back into a careless, easygoing acceptance of what is incorrect. Losing one's head is also a metaphor warning of the danger of becoming a walking dead person through allowing a drunken attitude. Drunkenness is a metaphor for a person's careless indifference to the moral contradictions of the collective ego. Author's note: just as we were completing this book, the sage made us aware that the first 3 lines of this hexagram describe the final preparation for the completion that occurs in line 4 and is confirmed in line 5. The old belief that completion never occurs in the I Ching because it shows constant changes to be the rule of life is incorrect. This belief, written into the traditional versions of the I Ching, has robbed the book of one of its greatest messages: that victory over the ego is possible. While the ego will always attempt to creep back in, the person who has liberated his true feelings will have the help he needs from the sage to keep the ego dismantled, and indeed be free of the grip of the devil's country. And the light of the sage is true. Yes. Thank you guys so much for watching this series. If you watched all the episodes, if you made it to the end of this series, write a comment in the description, in the comments, saying the light of the sage is true. And I'll see you guys in Cosmic Human Design, and a new program I'm creating called Cosmic Transformation, which seeks to apply all these various ideas we found in the I Ching Oracle of the Cosmic Way, and combine it with human design, with the gene keys, and have a step-by-step program in many ways, or at least as simple a program as possible, that includes consulting the I Ching regularly, asking the sage, working with the sage in tandem with human design and with the gene keys, so that the sage's light can reveal to us other things about those systems which have not yet been clarified, or at least not by Richard Rudd or Ra Uru. So yeah, I'm very excited for that, and I'll see you guys around. Thank you so much for watching. The light of the sage is true.